The following program includes graphic images and mature subject matter intended for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
They go by names like Aryan Guard, Combat 18, and Blood and Honor, white supremacy groups that most might assume have dwindled to small numbers in the Deep South. But in recent years, new chapters have sprouted up here in Canada, spurred largely by the internet. For close to 10 years, it was Daniel Gallant's world, a life of violence and crime. Tonight, in his first ever TV interview, he speaks with our Mark Carcassole about getting out and the Brotherhood of Hate.
If you get a swastika on your body, you're pretty committed to what your beliefs are.
It gives you a certain status.
It's more of a personal roadmap of your journey of violence. The incidents that led to the tattoo on my stomach, the swastika and the chain with the fist, was after I had put a man into a coma.
It's a type of hatred Daniel Gallant spent nearly a decade committed to, showing his dedication to the cause in one way: violence.
I've shot, stabbed, beat with baseball bats, propane bottles, chains. I was violent.
It was in Vancouver Daniel first gave his allegiance to the movement, the white supremacist movement.
I was already hateful, but the movement gave me a direction for my hatred.
He was 18 years old and living on the streets, a place, he says, safer than his family home.
It was quite chaotic at the best of times. When the violence increased at home, that's when my violence started kicking out more.
Then one night, Daniel was approached by two racist skinheads. It was on this street they convinced him to join their cause.
I knew that my childhood was awful, but I didn't have anyone to blame for that except my parents. And so the movement really gave me a focus as to who was to blame for the state of my life.
Daniel's childhood was steeped in violence. For years, he says, he was physically abused. His most vivid memory, his mother being raped.
I had seen him hit my mom, punch my mom several times in the face, and then throw her onto the bed and then slam the door, but the door bounced back open. And I stood there kind of frozen, and I didn't understand what was going on. And he climbed on top of her and had it his way with her and held her down, held her face, and she was screaming and crying and reaching out to me and asking me for help. And so I remember just being stuck and not knowing what to do. When he came out of the room, he patted my head, kind of rubbed my hair, and then walked past.
One of the ways that hate mongers attract people to their cause is by pointing to someone else as the cause of their problems. And this is how young people get recruited.
Karen Mock has been tracking hate groups for more than 20 years. She says these groups often target vulnerable youth who are looking for a sense of belonging.
They are likely to have been abused emotionally or even physically, as a child?
The reality is the people who want to be in those groups are messed up. And when you are a disenfranchised youth and there is this option to see others who are just like you and who feel similar things, it does give you that connection.
The movement offered Daniel a type of brotherhood, protection he had never experienced before. To show his loyalty, Daniel made a vow to commit an assault every day for a year.
There would not be a day that went by that I did not get into a fight or commit an assault. There has to be around 500 assaults altogether.
It's a combination of denigrating someone else to feel good about yourself, or you feel so bad about yourself that you're angry and you're going to lash out and you're going to punish those people.
Daniel served out punishment over and over again, often choosing his victims at random.
He was here in 1996 after an altercation in the bar with two black guys that I chased them out of the bar, met them over here, and assaulted one of them and beat him into unconsciousness, kicked him in the face several times with my steel-toed boots, and then hopped on a bus.
It's a world of violence that goes relatively unchecked, and with the expanding reach of the internet, the movement has been able to extend its grasp, using social media to reach more people while remaining underground.
How important of a factor is the internet in that recruitment drive?
Huge. Facebook kind of just really kickstarted like neo-Nazism on a global scale.
Photojournalist Brett Gunlock is not a member, but he spent time with members of the Aryan Guard, based in Calgary, Alberta.
Those guys especially were extremely violent.
For 3 years, he documented their world through his pictures.
Generally, non-whites is, if you're non-white or Jewish, you're on the hit list, you know what I mean? Like, their goal is to, well, these guys specifically, is to make Canada a white-only country.
Brett spent more than 8 hours a day with them, eating, drinking, and staying at their homes.
What makes a group of neo-Nazis?
They're always referencing Hitler, and they're sig hailing like every 10 seconds, you know, and it's almost like kind of part of the dance is to do a sig hail.
It's a lifestyle white supremacists promote, and they're doing it on a global scale, largely because of the internet.
Like these guys, the Aryan Guard now, they're connected with Blood and Honor and Combat 18, which are like huge heavy hitters from England. It really just opened up a new form of communication for those guys and allowed them to expand.
Next, free speech or hate speech? The following program includes graphic images and mature subject matter intended for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
High cut, heavy tread, and steel-toed. There's a hidden meaning within these boots. On the streets, it's the laces that tell the real story of dedication. Daniel Gallant spent almost a decade in the supremacist movement. For much of his time, he only wore white laces.
The white laces symbolize white pride or white power. You've been essentially indoctrinated and you're one of the crew. Or the red laces, which are usually earned through spilling lots of blood.
A ranking system meant for members and recruits, a way of creating a reputation within the group.
The black could be neutral, or it could also be fresh cuts, meaning a new recruit.
For Daniel, the more violent his fresh cuts were, the better his standings. So to solidify his position in the movement, he went online to find new recruits.
A real effective recruiter in the movement will grab people from the internet and then meet with them in person.
It's been nearly 10 years since Daniel used the internet to recruit. In that time, recruiting online has become a major tool for the movement, allowing hate groups to attract new members anywhere within Canada and worldwide.
There are a lot more networks than people are aware of. There's mass discussion forums that are there, chats, social network groups, and so on that youth can engage with.
And in forums, hate groups use words to target the other. Under current Canadian law, messages like this could be considered hate speech. But any day now, the law could change, making it even easier for white supremacist groups to spread their message. This is Bill C-304. If it passes into law, it will repeal Section 13 of the Human Rights Act. The section of the act prohibits the spread of hate on the internet. Brian Storseth is a Conservative Member of Parliament for Westlock St. Paul, Alberta. He introduced the bill. Storseth wants to get rid of Section 13 because he says it violates freedom of speech.
It doesn't allow people to express perhaps some of the dialogue that they would like.
Right now in Canada, there are 2 laws that make hate speech illegal online. But if Bill C-304 passes, only one will remain: the criminal code provisions.
I do believe that the necessary provisions are in the Criminal Code of Canada, and that's the place where real hate speech should be looked at with real punishments.
Human rights lawyer Richard Warman says Section 13 is crucial to fighting hate speech because it is too hard to get charges laid under the criminal code.
The criminal law has been so ineffective in dealing with hate speech generally, whether it's in the real world or on the internet. You have the institutional barrier of having to get the Attorney General in any given province's approval for any charges.
In the last decade, Warman has been one of the few crusaders in the fight against hate speech online. He's been using Section 13 to do it, and he's won every case.
Every group that was the subject of a human rights complaint of mine that I filed has dissipated. They don't have that internet presence, and they're not able to use that as a recruiting tool to build their brand. Then they disappear.
I haven't been charged with a hate crime, although I should have been repeatedly.
At the height of his involvement in the movement, Daniel committed multiple assaults a day, recruited about 50 new members, and spread the word of hate any way he could.
I would meet with 4 or 5 people off the internet and bring 3 or 4 people with me from the street, and then we'd automatically have a group. The repeal of Section 13, I think, is very problematic in the way that we as a society are saying that it's okay to promote these racist and violent agendas.
There's calm in Daniel's life now. He's out of the movement. There's no blood to spill, no more hatred to bear.
I just sat there thinking about the people that I was hurting and that I was hating, and the reason I hated society and hated everybody was the same. They were the same as me, and it was all the stuff that I had gone through and that brought me to this hate and this violence. I was now perpetuating that same stuff onto other people.
It's a realization that's made Daniel change his step and change his laces for good.
I wear whatever laces are in my shoes or my boots. There's no colors in my laces anymore.
Next, Ai Weiwei, artist or freedom fighter?